So you are going to give yourself your own grade for this. So I want you to take a second and look this over before we start going over the test and think if you were the teacher and you were trying to assess how well this student learned something. So take yourself out of your own shoes and put yourself in the feedback view of yourself. If you were trying to give yourself feedback. So I provided all the feedback for if it's right or wrong, notating like the important things that you may have missed, putting arrows to negatives or minuses or things to cue you in on. But so here's our grading system, right? So exemplary is like the old like A+ sort of grade. Andrew, give me your attention for a minute. So exemplary is like, I've got this. I have total control of this material. Really, like, I could teach it next time. Like, I could call you in next year during 8th grade and you could teach my 7th grade class. You are mastered on this and beyond mastered. Colin?
Could mastery be like, I know you said a couple of mistakes. Some, if they were like stupid mistakes.
Yeah, so like, mastery is like, I understand the skills that we are doing. I maybe made a couple math mistakes that are maybe not directly related to the skills, like adding positive and negative numbers, but maybe I like had a computational mistake. I added 3 plus 9 and I thought it was 11 instead of it being 12. Something like that. So those smaller mistakes are not directly to the standards we're working on. They're the overarching, you need to practice math accuracy, not the individual standards of what we're looking at. Progressing is not a bad thing. We spend most of our life progressing. I am still progressing as a teacher. Luckily, I just get to get paid for it. So, we are always able to learn more. Progressing means I need more practice before I'm comfortable and confident saying that I've mastered this skill. So, something I would say that I need more practice on. I'm trying to think like in life, things that I need more, like, so yeah, remembering names. I'm progressing with remembering your guys' names. You can tell because I don't have all of them down. If you look at your test and you're like, oh, I can tell that I don't know how to add and subtract positive and negatives because I made the same mistake 3 times, you might need some practice with problems like that. Now, not progressing is I totally didn't get this. And especially when you're assessing yourself, that's just one of those, are you honest with yourself? You know if you don't understand something. It's just whether or not you accept that you don't understand something. You know when your room is dirty. It's whether or not you accept that your mom is telling you to clean your room. You know when you're making a bad choice. Your conscience tells you that. So, take a moment and look at your test and decide what would you give yourself, exemplary, mastery, progressing, or not progressing, and then write that on the front, either by your name or by the date, and circle it. So either an E, M, P, or NP. Then we're going to go over all these. So that's why you need that sheet of paper out. So I still see some people without a separate sheet of paper out. We are going to need that out because we are not writing on the assessments. We are doing revisions on a separate sheet. No, because you're going to staple it to the test. So you don't have to rip it out. So I would just use... Huh? Another staple? What, do you already have a lot of staples or something? Well, we could yank that staple and then keep it at a 1 staple. Well, no, but then we could re-staple everything. Alright, so I need your guys' help in going over this. I would call people up to explain the problems, but when you get up at the board, you start being all showboaty, and we would never get through with this stuff. And we can only take today on this. And I would like to cover some Chapter 5 questions as well. Okay, making sure that the microphone's on. So who can help me with number 1? You have to explain your thinking before you give the answer. Wait, now you don't want to, you have to explain it? Yeah, go ahead and help me, Julia.
Okay, so there's 3 positive chips and then
You're saying it right. I'm just waiting to say something. The biggest thing that threw people off, and this happened on your homework too, I was looking at your practice assignments, these are the negatives. And your brain is kind of like, what? Normally, we shade things in that are negative and leave them open if they're positive. I don't know why, we just often do that. So, these are the negatives. What can I do with negatives and positives? It's still your problem, Julie.
You can cancel them out, so you take 1 positive.
So those disappear? Those disappear. Those disappear. And I'm left with one chip. And guys, I tried to help you because positive 1 is not even an answer here. So I tried to help you by leaving this multiple choice. It would be negative 1. So carefully read the fact that the plain chip has a value of negative 1. You just have to carefully read that. Now, additive inverse. Guys, if you did not know what the additive inverse was, that tells you directly, that tells you directly that you have not been paying attention. We've talked about additive inverses almost every day that we were in chapter 4, and it's been in your notes multiple times, and it's been in multiple of your homework assignments. If you still don't know what that is, you just absolutely are not putting in the effort. So what's an additive inverse, or Izzy?
Can I say what it is and then the answer?
Yeah, so give me what it is, then explain like your written response.
Okay, so it's negative 2.5.
How do we know?
Because it's just the opposite.
Yeah. So I got a lot of great written responses. An additive inverse is the opposite of the number.
Please pardon the interruption. Brady, cool to the office, please. Brady, cool to the office, please.
Additive inverse, gentlemen, we do not do that. For all you know, his parents were just in a car crash. So how would you feel if then you heard that you made that ooh, especially if he was in this class, and then it was something really bad? Knock it off. Like I told the class before you, we're kind of getting past that honeymoon period. You're in middle school or junior high now, whatever you want to call it. You have higher expectations for how you behave, the work you produce, and the who you are as a person. So we're going to get on you guys about things. One thing that really scared me was people that said additive inverses make everything positive. That's absolute value. Two totally different things. Additive, the biggest thing here is inverse. The inverse is like the flip or the opposite of something. So we have additive inverses are the opposite. Multiplicative inverses, or the ones where you multiply, flip it. So you either make it opposite or you flip it. Absolute value makes things positive. So our number line distance, what's one thing about distance that we know? Distance or length? Yeah.
You can't travel like negative distance.
Yeah, we can never go negative distances. So even though we start at a negative value and then we go to a positive, we know that this distance is going to have to be a positive amount. So then, who can help me? How'd you solve this? When they give you the number line, it's fairly easy. Abby?
You just jump.
Yeah, you can jump numbers.
Make a 1, 2, 3,
4, 5, 6, and a 7. So we find out there's 7. You can just jump and count. Always make sure you're counting the gaps between numbers. So guys, in case this was not clear, to go from progressing to mastery, if you have a mistake or a question not answered on your clean sheet of paper, you are writing the revisions, the correct way to solve it, or you are just solving it. If you haven't solved it yet, you write out a solution. So if you've missed 1, 2, or 3, you should have a correct solution written out on that clean sheet of paper. And when you're doing revisions with number lines, you do not have to show all the numbers. You could just show 4, 0, and negative 3. Which the thing to think about is this is 3, this is 4, so together it's got to be 7. All right, now Abby's standing on a stool, jumping into a hole. We don't really judge what she does on the weekend. But the big thing that caught a lot of you is what change happens and where do I end? Justin?
Okay, so standing up on a 3-foot stool, so your starting number is going to be at 30. So because she's in the air, she's jumping into a hole, and that's going below the ground, so it's going to be a negative number.
Yeah, so this hole, maybe her sister dug a hole right beside her or something and was like, ha, I'll trap her. Or your brother. So think about the ground level as like a checkpoint. If Abby only jumped to the ground, how far would that be? 3 feet. Then if she jumped to the bottom of the hole, how far would that be? 2 more feet. So her total change was 5. And it lands her, just like Justin told us, 2 feet below the ground at -2. Any? Ooh. So she's a third of the way. Because most coffins and things are 6 feet under. Which I don't really think that's, like, I don't know why they chose 6 feet. Like, where that ever came from. Maybe that was, like, as far as you can go and still climb out of the hole. You know, like, imagine being the grave digger and getting stuck in a grave. That would be freaky. Not everything is Illuminati. So, number 5, I need help. Number 5, I need help. A lot of us started to miss these questions. So if you missed these, please make sure that on your clean sheet you write the original problem and then the correct solution. You cannot just write the number and the answer. You have to have a solution. Please do not waste your own time. Oh my gosh, you're both going to punch through the ceiling. Lily.
Okay. So, should I just walk you through it?
Yeah. So what happens first? We're like,
First, what I did was I just wrote it. I don't know, it helps me, but I just write the whole problem again.
yeah, I always write the whole problem again. I also don't like how small these things print out. But for my space up here, I'm just not going to because I don't have
the
enough
next
space.
thing I did was I combined the two negative or the two minus signs and made a plus, which is positive.
If you forgot to do this, draw an arrow to that first symbol and write minus. Then draw an arrow to the second and write negative. And they're right beside each other. Minus a negative turns into plus a positive. So this really turns into 5 plus 15.
And then I put down a plus 5 brackets.
Ooh, yeah, the -5. We have to carry down everything else that doesn't change.
And then the next down, I just added 5 and 15, so I did -5 plus 20.
Now, do I still need these brackets? No. And really, PEMDAS should be GEMDAS or GEMDAS. Because really, when they say parentheses, they mean grouping symbols. It doesn't have to be parentheses. So parentheses, brackets, or even absolute values, those all happen up here in the grouping symbol step.
So then I did, pretty much it would have been 20 minus 5.
Yeah. Addition, what property lets me change order? Commutative. I move. So I make this 20 plus -5, which plus a negative is really subtraction. So the answer is 15. Any questions on how we got that? Now, minus a negative, were there right? You good? Didn't know if you had a question. Minus a negative, where they are right beside each other, is very different than this problem. That is not minus a negative. That is starting at a negative, subtracting 12. 12 is not negative. It's just 12. So we'll get there. We'll do 6 first, then we'll get there. 28 plus -16. So now again, we have addition, but it's addition of a negative. I could tweak this. Izzy?
I don't know if I did this right, but I know I got the right answer. I just made them they're both positive, and then I did 28 minus 16.
So what you actually did, I agree, but it makes your process simpler. You took plus a negative and made it minus a positive. So like you said, I treated them like they were positive. You can actually physically swap these two symbols around and make it minus the positive as opposed to plus the negative. So notice I still have the plus, although I don't have to write it. It's representing a positive now. I still have the negative. It's just representing a minus now. So 28 minus 16 gives us 12. Any questions? Now on 7, if you got 7 wrong, we want to draw a vertical number line to try to help us think about this. So on 7, we have -46 minus 12. If I start at -46, I'm starting at my negative value. And then I'm told to go 12 units. Now, regardless of what direction I go, just think about this for a minute. If I go 12 units up, can I get past 0?
No.
There's 0 chance that I get positive. So if you put down a positive answer, you really need to think about how much was I thinking and how much was I rushing. Because you got to turn your brain on and really think about what makes sense. And I'm not going up. I'm told to go down 12 more. So even though I'm already negative, I'm told to go 12 more. Well, if I was already at 46 and I go 12 more, where do I land? 58. And since I went the negative direction, I know that this has to be negative 58. Because the other way I could have looked at this is made the minus the positive plus a negative. Then I have same signs, so I save the sign and sum. I get negative 58. Questions on that one? I'm also going to go back in and open up the practice assignments to like unlimited attempts. I'm actually probably going to make them like 20. I don't think I can do unlimited, but it will never save bad scores. It will always remember the best score. So if you just want to practice more to check through like, oh wait, do I know these? I'm just going to open those up with like as many attempts as you want. Casey? Oh, nice. And I'm going to put the, actually I feel like that review activity I did have posted, I think I'm just going to pull problems off of there and make that the progressing to mastery. Huh?
5.2.
No, the chapter 4 review activity, the optional thing from last week. I posted it for like a day or two and then I removed it.
I have a question about, okay, so this is like overall, so if you have a negative, like for this minus 12 or positive, it's plus. So if I had,
No, what do you mean?
like
Say that again.
It's negative 46, and then it's like adding 12.
So, be careful with how we're saying this. This is negative because there's nothing in front of it, right? It has to be a negative. This is a minus, which tells me how to move or change, and it tells me to minus, so go down by 12 units. So that's telling me the direction to go and how far to go. So then, instead of leaving it as minus, I said, well, really, subtraction is addition, and addition is subtraction. They just switch around. So I can make it addition, but I still need to know what direction to go. So I make it addition in the negative
So you
direction.
just like make the minus sign, make it negative 12, and then just
Yeah, so instead of a minus, like you just said, it turns into a negative.
But
So I still have the sign, but
if it was negative 46 plus 12,
then it would go up. Then it would tell you to go up the number line 12.
so you would just be like,
So then if it was plus 12, I'd go up by 12. So that would really be 46 minus 12, which would give me 34, but it would still be negative. So I'd have negative 34. So that was the common answer, the common wrong answer that I got was either a positive 34 or a negative 34, because that's the difference between them. But this is not actually asking for difference. This is asking for final location. Distance on the number line. What do we know about length or distance? That is very, 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 very specific. Andrew?
It is always positive.
It has to be positive. So, if you gave a negative answer, I would underline length and remind yourself that this must be positive.
I literally know what I did wrong. I just put the
I
negative
already
sign.
did that.
So, if I look at the number line, and if you got this wrong, a number line might help you, and you go from negative 1 to negative 9, let me ask you a question. If I was positive going from 1 to 9 and asking what's that distance, what would you do? Well, what is it? How do you get it?
Go from 1 to 9. Count up.
Yeah, you can count or you can really like subtract, right? So, how would this distance relate if these are both negative to the distance that would both be positive? You said the positive distance on that side of the number line. Well, I'm just asking everybody. But Justin said on the positive side of the number line, it would be 8 from 1 to 9. So what about this distance? It's still 8 because it's the same. Going from -1 to -9 is the same thing as going from +1 to +9. This is like we went west instead of going east. Distance has to be positive. If they have the same sign, just treat them like they're both positive. Now, it's where they have different signs that it gets a little bit more difficult. So if I was you, I would draw a number line for this, whether it's horizontal or vertical. But I break up my number line. I always put my 0. Now, does anyone know what I'm going to do and why I always put my 0? You're like running class. Hayden? I bet you it'll all make sense as soon as I do one thing. Show how far these distances are. If I want the length, I'm talking distances. How far to go from -8 to 0? 8, right? It's 8 away from 0. We can think about absolute value. How far to go from 0 to 12? 12. So how far to go the entire distance? 20. Because you do not have to do some fancy schmancy math. You can draw pictures and think. Don't worry, your brain works. I know you took a few months off, but it does work. We can get some WD-40 in there if it's too rusty. Don't spray WD-40 in your head. It's not a good idea.
It's like a grease.
Yeah, it's a lubricating oil. Like if your door squeaks, you can spray it with WD-40. Or if you can't get a bolt off. But they also have this stuff called PB Blaster. That's really, really good. If you get a bolt stuck. What do I do in 10? Bells and alarms should be going off inside your head for 2 different reasons. Shane?
You make the 2 negative signs plus.
Yeah, so these join up because they're right beside each other and become a plus sign. So now, this becomes 15 plus 7. Hey guys, by the way, some of you thought this was just 5. I think your eyes got confused with the absolute value next to the 1. This is 15. So I don't know if it was this class or which class, but pay attention, be careful with what you're reading. Then what do I do, Shane? Add them up, I get 22. Now what does the absolute value do? I had some people a little confused on absolute value. Go ahead, it's your problem. Yeah, so what if it's already positive? Yeah, it does nothing. It stays positive. Because remember, absolute value is really asking for what? What is absolute value asking for? No, that's its nickname, is the attitude adjuster. It makes everything positive, but why? It's really looking at how far everything is from 0. So how far is 22 from 0? Well, it's 22. Like, you don't have to do anything. So here, the absolute value does nothing. That did catch a couple people, though, because a couple people made their answer negative because they thought absolute value always flips the sign. Be careful. It always makes things positive. So, 11, just like 10, and guys, I do this stuff on purpose. When I put groups of problems, if you knew the minus the negative from 10, you should know the minus the negative here. So then it becomes, and I'm going to put my -6 in parentheses just to be nice. So now I have addition. Do I have same sign or different sign? Different. I have negative and positive, right? Hayden, what do I do?
Well, you can flip the
Yeah, so commutative property, 19 plus -6.
and then you, with the negative, you just make it.
Yeah, plus a negative is the same thing as subtraction. And it becomes absolute value of 13 which again, my absolute value does nothing, and my answer is 13. Awesome. Thank you very much. So then, 12. A lot of people fell in the trap on 12. Now, my first question, as we work into chapter 5, is does it matter where this negative is? Does it need to be attached to the top onto that 3? No, it can be there, on bottom, or out in front. So when I start to rewrite this, I say negative 3/8. I like to put my negatives up front because it makes things easier. Minus 7/8. Now, is this addition?
No.
No. Can I make it addition?
No.
I can subtraction can always become addition with a little bit of movement. So this minus 7/8, I can't just get rid of that. But if I make it addition, that minus just comes over right here and becomes negative. So notice, instead of minus 7/8, I can add negative. I have the same symbols. I have my negative on the 3/8, my minus turned into a negative. Any questions on how I'm able to do that?
Oh, I put an absolute.
So remember, you don't apply absolute value till the very end. So then, I have addition. Yay, addition's easier. Do I have same sign or different signs? Same, they're both negative. So same sign, we save the sign and sum. So 3 and 7 gives me 10. Do I add my denominators? No, they just carry through. Now absolute value gives me positive. And some of you then made it mixed.
I did.
You're not done. And I think on every paper that left it right there, I wrote in big old letters, reduce! You can't stop until it's reduced. So I did not take points off for it right now, but you must reduce all fractions. You get 1 1/4, or if you left it improper, you get 5/4. I accepted either. Because they're both right, they're the same thing.
But it's just better.
Now 13 and 15 is where some people had some problems, which I expected.
For 13, I made the dumb.
I bet you just have a sign issue if I took a minus half off.
Wait, I understood.
Yeah.
So, I did, but say if I got number 12 right, like, I just would write down.
Yeah, write the solution out.
Right.
Yeah, so you don't just write the answer, you write the whole solution.
Yeah, I wrote that down, and that would count as my revision.
Yeah.
And what if I didn't get the last 3 done? Would I?
So you can just write them, if we get to them, you can just write them now. There's going to be a separate assignment. So that sometimes I just have you guys do corrections, and that's it. But because we're doing all of these together, it's going to be turning in corrections and this separate assignment. So today you're going to turn that back in so I can see what grade you gave yourself and make sure that you were actually paying attention in class. But then I'm going to get back to you guys tomorrow and hand out those progression to mastery sheets. I have options here to start, and options always make things difficult for you guys. I get that. So you need to decide what do you prefer and just always do that. You can either do your denominators first or you can do your improper first. Either way, you're going to have to do both, so it doesn't matter. But the trick is, if you do your denominators first, so I need my 3 to become a 6. To do that, I have to double. What happens to the 8? It stays the same. A couple people, this was not a widespread issue, a couple people tried to mess with the 8 also, which is why I normally go improper first. Like when I teach it to you guys in class, I go improper first because I feel like it's easier. If you go denominator first, trying to match those up, just be careful that you do not mess with the whole number. So now I have negative 8 and 4/6, plus 4 and 1/6. So now we should improper, or some people actually figured out a pretty good method for doing this. If these numbers are in a battle, and I need to figure out which one is stronger and by how much, can I take 1/6 away from 4/6? Can I take 4 away from 8? You didn't actually need to make this improper. Because I know the negative is stronger, I know that my answer is going to end up negative. So then, do I have same sign or different signs? Different. So we are going to find the difference, and we always go big minus small. Because my big value has a larger whole number and a larger numerator, I can take this mixed number away from this mixed number. So you would have gotten negative 4 and 3/6, because 1/6 from 4/6 is 3. 4 from 8 gives me 4. Or if you went improper, this turns into 48, 52, 6 plus 25, 6. You get a negative 27 because this is negative and this is positive. They are in a battle. So you get negative 27, 6, which turns into negative 4.5 once you reduce everything. Questions on this one?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, comment.
I got negative 2.5 for the first time, and then I looked at it again, and I was like, well, if we add 2 and 4, that's 6, not 8. So if you just stop and think about.
Yeah, reason through. Does my answer make sense? Not just like, did I get an answer? Does it make sense? Jack?
I literally, when I got this back, I was like, how could this be wrong? And I just stared at it, and I realized I didn't see it.
That's why we're doing what we're doing with this today, just so that I can provide you guys with feedback. And really, grades are not the goal. Learning the material is the goal. I wish I didn't ever have to give you guys grades. If we could trust adolescents to just learn the material they need to learn without extrinsic motivation, grades, that would be sweet. But that hasn't worked yet. Our ideal school, we would not grade, we would just feedback. But that's really what mastery is. It's just continuous feedback and kind of back and forth. So 14, if you don't know how to do the process, you might want to come work with me or work with one of your peers. We do not have time to talk about the written response. This one especially, I would go improper first because I know that I'm going to have to manipulate both of my fractions. And for me, that's easier. That doesn't mean that's what you have to do. That's just what's easier for me. So when I go improper, I get 16/7 plus negative, 23/4. Now, can I make my 7 into a 4 or my 4 into a 7? No, because that would not work with multiplication. So the easy thing to do there is multiply by the other denominator. So grab the denominator from your other fraction, use it over here, grab this denominator, use it over there. Because then they will both have the denominator of 28. So this becomes 64/28 plus a negative 161/28. Do I have addition? Yes. So do I have same signs or different signs? Positive, negative. We have different signs. We're going to have to find the difference. So, guys, I still have 2 minutes left for what it's worth. And to me, that's worth a lot. So, I find the difference, big minus small. Always, once you've taken your sign, it's just big minus small. So that becomes 97/28. You could have stopped there. Because I didn't tell you you need to, make a mixed number, this is simplified unless you go to mixed number. If you go to mixed number, you end up with negative 3 and 13/28. And then our last one, if you're going from a mountaintop into a pit that is below sea level, are you going to pass sea level? Yeah, so if you're going from a mountaintop into a pit below sea level, you got this wrong. I would draw a picture like this. This is 1452 up. And this is 35 down or negative. To go from the mountaintop to ground level would be 1452. To go from ground level into that pit would be another 35. So together, we add them, and we get that the total distance change is 1,487, and you gotta label it meters. I was forgiving on the labels this time, but please make sure you have labels, otherwise I will have to start counting things wrong. Please turn in the mastery with that separate sheet of paper stapled to it, with a grade that you gave yourself on the top of the front. 17, most people got it right. Are you just wanting to know the answer? Should be 18. Check your math. Should be 18.
I think I only missed 2.
Sweet. I will probably grade it right now, actually. So then, do you have AO today?
Yes.
First or second?
Second.
Sweet. So I have second AO also. So come see me at second AO and we can just chat about that. Just still for today. Go ahead and turn it in.
you like the back.
Even if you didn't get a chance to do 17, just go ahead and turn that in. I have a stapler over here, by the way. And if it's not hole punched, I don't care. I have one over there and one over here. And the one over here is the fancy new one.
My mom has that one.